Hey guys, welcome to the rollout. I am Lindsay Rousseau.
And I'm Genevieve Marie. Hello and welcome.
We are so excited today. So, for those of you who might not be aware of who this person is, shame on you. You probably do know him. You just weren't aware that you knew him. But now that What If has finished, I know a lot of people have been talking about that. So, we are so happy to be joined by the amazing Mick Wingert, who, again, one of the best voice actors in the industry. He's also an amazing coach, and I've had the pleasure of knowing him for many years. Mick, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on. It's great to be on the rollout. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, for people who might not be aware of who you are, let's just give them a little snapshot of I don't know, some of the few minor things that you've done in your career.
I'm probably the project that has had most eyes on it recently is, of course, Marvel's What If. It's the first animated offering out of Marvel Studios since Marvel Studios took over the animation division from Marvel Entertainment. And I got to share the screen with some incredible on-camera actors in animated form. I played the role of Tony Stark and picked it up because our dear friend Robert Downey Jr. decided that he was done. He had said his goodbye.
Yeah.
So I respect that and grateful for the work. But you also might know my work from any television or video game version of a certain panda who's like into kung fu and might do the thing with the I'm also the Kung Fu Panda, when Jack's not the Kung Fu Panda. And I've been in World of Warcraft and Hearthstone and Red Dead Redemption. And if you have littles, you might know me from my work on Sofia the First or Elena of Avalor. And like my virtual background, I had the privilege of playing Iron Man before What If in the Marvel animated universe offerings back when it was still under entertainment. So
Yay. Well,
that's me.
Yeah. So, like you just said, you had played Iron Man prior to What If. Obviously, with Marvel, lots of stuff, NDA. So, of course, you can't talk about things. Awesome. But was your previous iteration of Iron Man what helped secure your role in What If?
I don't think it got me any special favors. I think it was certainly something that my agent could pitch on my behalf.
Right.
I've got the guy who's Iron Man right now for the other cartoons.
Yeah.
But I really had to go in and audition, and the reason I actually ended up being Iron Man in the animated offerings before they were taken over by studios is because I kind of threw in some Robert Downey Jr.isms on what I was going to do for the character. So I would go into I just added that little bit of like lilt. There was an opportunity that came up, I want to say like in 2017, maybe earlier. Maybe it would have to be earlier. Anyway, there was an opportunity that came up. It was an off brand Marvel 90-minute like holiday special they were producing to be released straight to video via Netflix, straight to streaming. And it tells you how long ago it was. It was like right before Disney pulled all its content to do Disney Plus. And for whatever reason, Adrian Pasdar, who had been doing Iron Man in Avengers Assemble and had kind of been the voice of Iron Man for a while, was not available. So they sent out auditions, and I thought, look, as a guy who wasn't a fan of Iron Man before 2008 necessarily, wasn't anti, but
yeah,
I mean, Iron Man, okay. But in 2008, Downey like came in and kicked ass and redefined, what Tony Stark and Iron Man could be.
Yeah.
And I loved it. So I thought, if I'm gonna audition for this 90-minute special and as Iron Man, I'm gonna flip and do Iron Man, like the Iron Man I know. And that was enough to catch somebody's ear. They gave me a shot, and then thankfully they liked what they heard, and they liked how it went in the session, and then they had me in for a Lego thing, and then after that I got a call saying, you're on season 4 of Avengers Assemble. Adrian opted not to come back, so
Oh, wow.
Come on in.
And
And so I guess, the moral of that story is that I was already basing my performance on what Robert Downey Jr. had laid down, so it didn't hurt
yeah.
when it came time for What If. But I know that their standard was way more exacting than
Yeah. Because they
than
had
Marvel Animation
so
is.
many of the original cast members that it's like, okay, it's got to be what people know from the MCU or not at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And like it was not a guarantee that I was going to get it. I remember going to a callback. I went in for an in-person audition and came for a callback, and then I went for a second callback. And then after the second callback, they wanted me to meet with the director of the show.
Wow.
And that whole meeting was, we love what you're doing. We love your acting chops. You're playing this character really well. I think this is going to work for us. However, we want to make sure you are spot on Tony Stark. So, like, go watch Infinity War, go watch Endgame, get later Robert Downey Jr. because he's not the same as he was in 2008.
Yeah, and 1 and 2, yeah.
So that was my first homework assignment was.
Yeah. Well, and I think you nailed it. I mean, and you've appeared in articles and, what was it, Deadline or the Hollywood Reporter has talked about it. So, I mean, nobody's complaining.
Thankfully. Well, a few are. I knew I was officially famous when I got a DM in my inbox on Instagram, and somebody said, "Please leave Iron Man alone. You already ruined Kung Fu Panda."
Wow.
Wow. Jeez.
Okay.
There's always one. I usually find there's always one person out there who's going to be like the absolute opposite of the board of everybody else.
You can't please them all.
I have to say, I thought it was perfect. I thought you were absolutely wonderful.
Thank you, Genevieve. That's very kind of you.
Which do you have any pointers on anybody else for coming up with a Tony Stark accent? Like, I guess my question is, like, where did you start building that character to get it so exact? Because it is just right on the money.
Thank you. I actually, and Linsay can tell you, because she's experienced me as a coach in the past, like, I actually usually opt out of teaching voice matching because it's a skill that kind of comes naturally to me. Yeah. But over the years, I've been trying to pay attention to how I do it so that I can helpfully at least give some insight. And these days, like, what I would say is, like, for me, it was all about the placement of where his voice sits, and in terms of its resonance. As you can see, I'm like kind of blocking off the front of my mouth here like that. And then I also noticed that he would upspeak at times, and on top of that, he also would hold before he'd say the rest of his line. And so it was the speaking pattern, it was the place of resonance, and it was, as I was trying to master later Tony, that also became a pitch issue. But for Jack Black, I didn't have a Jack Black voice match when I got thrown into the audition gamut for that. That was a friend of mine in the business who does a lot of voice match was talking to the casting director saying, "Yeah, I wish I could help you, but he's not in my wheelhouse, but you should call Mick Wingert's agent because he sounds just like him." And so I got thrown in because I sound like Jack Black, and I didn't know this. And so I watched every Jack Black movie I could get my hands on. And basically I've discovered over the years that, I mean, as we're aging, the difference is getting more significant, but it used to be like 10 years ago, back in 2011, when I was recording Kung Fu Panda Legends of Awesomeness, really the only difference between Jack and I was not a pitch or a texture or anything like that. He just formed his words like this when I formed my words like that. So
elocution.
It was just a matter of like mastering that lateral delivery, or what I would call a lateral delivery. That's not an industry term. It's just I'm trying to come up with something to describe it. But like flattening it all out and getting the right, dialect, as it were. And as soon as I changed that, and got that into place, like playing Poe I was off to the races.
Yeah.
What's interesting is that I've heard Jack in recent months, and we're all getting older, and as he's aging, like everyone's voice does, it's getting lower. So now, like, if I'm gonna do Jack, I gotta like put a little bit more like breath in it, and I gotta like resonate down here, because you guys, I mean, this is how he's gonna sound now, because he's a lot older.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's about
yeah.
I guess it's about paying attention to how people form words,
Yeah.
and where they shoot the sound coming out of their mouth to resonate. Like, we shoot it into different parts of our cranium to get resonance. That's why like some people really sound nasal, because they're literally breathing and resonating into their nasal passages. That's why you get this sound. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
So you've obviously done a lot of different types of characters in your career. When you're approaching, say, a voice match for Tony Stark or for Poe, you're not only having to match all of the acting beats, but also embody a person who already exists. Do you approach your performance differently when you're dealing with that type of character, as opposed to a character that is new, has never been done by anybody before?
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately boils down to the same thing, to tell you the truth, and it looks different for me. The process looks a little different, because the process for me is really about trying to make sure that nobody can tell it's me. Like, when my first episode of What If was released, I was like biting my nails, because I can always hear me.
Yeah.
And I'm not begging for compliments, and I take you at your word, Genevieve. And when I hear it, I go, that doesn't sound anything like Robert. That's me. What are you doing? So my goal when I'm doing a voice match is for a seamless performance. By way of example, I got the wonderful opportunity to voice match for Jack on Goosebumps, on Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween, and it was because he was doing House with a Clock in Its Walls at the time, and he was only coming into Goosebumps as R.L. Stine in the second chapter for a brief cameo towards the end of the film. Spoiler alert for a movie that's like 4 years old now. But the character of Slappy, who's the ventriloquist dummy, was the main villain, and they wanted it. They had the same actor who puppeted the ventriloquist dummy from the first film, and he does a great performance. And in the first film, because they wanted it to feel like it had come from R.L. Stine, they had Jack overdub, basically mimicking this puppeteer's performance, who's brilliant, mimicking him with Jack's voice. So when time for the second film came around and Slappy was going to be the main villain, they wanted the continuity. They really just wanted it to be seamless. And since Jack wasn't available, yours truly got called. And my goal was, if I can fool people into thinking this is Jack as Slappy, I'm happy. More than a credit, more than like my name up on the screen. Like, if I can make people think that there's no difference between this Slappy and the Slappy from the first movie, then I've done my job. So when I'm creating characters of my own, there's a lot more freedom to try things and to express and whatnot, and there's a lot less restriction in terms of the creative process. But ultimately, it's the same. It's all make-believe, right? It's all that art of making believe. It's all that art of creating a character. It's whether or not you're creating a character that needs to fit in a certain shell, or one that can fill a different size shell, or whose shell can change.
Yeah.
Like that's how I would describe the differences.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Linsay and I were talking about, especially with What If, I think maybe you might sell yourself a little bit short here, because we were saying that they spent all this time and all this money getting all of the original actors, as many as they possibly could, to come back and redo their voices, even characters that some people wouldn't recognize or even remember, like I keep wanting to call her Amy Adams, but it's not Amy Adams.
Oh, from Doctor Strange.
Yeah, from Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah,
Rachel
Rachel McAdams.
Rachel
Yes.
McAdams, yeah. She has
And they
one
brought
line.
her back, and it's just like, yeah, she's. I don't even, I don't even know if very many people remember that she was there, but they took the pains to bring all these people back for even just one line, having little one-liners. But a lot of these actors, even though they're wonderful on screen, they're not voice actors. So a lot of the problems that I found with What If was not with the professional voice actors like yourself who are doing the mimics, and because the line deliveries and everything is so crisp and clean, and you guys are trained and you know what you're doing, but then you bring on somebody who is who only has ever acted in front of the camera, and the performance is a bit lost, whereas somebody like yourself, you shine doing that sort of work. So I think that was one of the things that Linsay and I talked about a lot, that it's very different to be in a sound booth and recording recording lines, as opposed to being in front of the camera and then having that intimacy and that ability for the camera to pick up everything in the eyes and on the face. The voice is almost secondary to the expression. So again, you did a fantastic job, but it also is a credit to, I think it's a credit. And even though I find that there's some mistakes in What If because of the fact that they didn't have all professional voice casts or actors that were very comfortable doing it, I think it's just gives you guys so much more credit and shows how much work and how important that voice actors are, like you and Linsay, just so much respect, because it is a whole different animal.
Yeah, it really is. One of the things that when I am teaching and coaching, one of the things I try to make clear is that the core of acting is the same, whether you're on stage or in front of a camera or you're on a microphone. Like it's all making believe, and you have to have a talent for that, and that's not going to change. And like you just so beautifully pointed out, like for every medium that you act in, there's a whole different set of skills.
Yeah.
Like I'm not good on camera, and it's not because I think I'm homely. I mean, I am what I am, but like it's not a self-confidence issue. It's I have never trained with a camera and working in that medium. And for me to be proficient at that, I would need to take time and invest skill and learn that facet of acting. Same thing goes for the microphone. I remember one time, and I will gloss over in anonymity. This is a story really happened. A voice director friend of mine who was directing a video game or something, some project, was working with a celebrity who was cast in the project, and as he was working with the celebrity, he kept pushing the celebrity a little farther, a little farther, a little farther, and like eventually was like, okay, imagine that you are doing this, 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 and this, and while you're saying this line, and the celebrity came back with, oh, you mean you want me to act? Like you really want me to, like I'm on set? Like I'm on set? I'm like, yes.
A little bit.
I think, being in the voiceover education world is so eye-opening for me. Because I think I look at the swath of voiceover students that are out there. I'm not talking about working professionals and who take coaching from time to time to stay sharp. I mean like people who are taking voiceover classes, in quotes. And there's this notion that voiceover is its own thing, and it's not acting, it's voiceover. It's, you got to have a sound, and you got to have the right read.
Well, I have a cool voice. I can talk.
Exactly. I can talk for a living. I can read things pretty. And the story about the celebrity on the project with my voice director friend is a great example of the fact that even A-list celebrities who are used to working in other mediums see voiceover as its own thing that's not acting.
Yeah.
But it is.
Yeah.
It totally is.
Yeah. I have some stories as well. That are very similar. You know, I went to go meet with an on-camera agent once and went in for the meeting and was like, hey, just so you know, I make a living as a voice actor. So no day job. I've never missed an audition. I'm really flexible. And she's like, that's a really nice hobby to have. I was like, I'm pretty sure my voiceover agents make way more commission off me than you're making off all your co-stars. But I was just like, this really lovely meeting you.
So
I'm gonna go. It's so good to meet you.
Have fun with my little hobby.
Yeah, with my little hobby. Yeah.
I mean, like it's the same with the stunt industry. It's the same with, you know, so many other things. The mocap industry especially gets the shaft a lot, especially in the credits for films and stuff. Like they barely have been showing up at all in, you know,
it's gotten a little bit better lately, but
yeah, they're improving, but still it's one of those things where unless it's like in front of the camera, I just feel like a lot of other people get sidelined when they really should not.
Well, and it's interesting. Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Mick.
No, I was just agreeing with you. It made me think again of Goosebumps 2. Like you know, it was public knowledge that I was the voice of Slappy, even though my intent was to try to make it as seamless as possible. But really, the guy who performed that
the puppeteer.
The puppeteer.
The puppeteer and the original actor, I mean, they recorded him on set. It was a very Andy Serkis kind of a thing where he has a full character, full performance, like but his credit was different, right? And it was somewhere down a little farther in the cast list and stuff, and I was billed as Slappy, and that's because I made sure I was billed as Slappy through my agent. But at the same time, like you just said, like it's the specialty performers who can often get the shaft, and they're working twice as hard. So I think, like, what would be a solve for that? Like, to have a dual credit or something. Like
the Dark Crystal, when the Dark Crystal show came out, they actually did that. When the credits ran, it was the voice actor with the puppeteer side by side, and I was like, that is so great. But and like Genevieve said with mocap, it's like, okay, Yuri Lowenthal is Spider-Man. Well, so were his 3 stunt doubles who did all of the work.
Right.
You know, and same thing with on camera. I mean, it's like, you know, you hear all the stories of, well, I do my own stunts and my brother's a stunt man. And he's like, no, they don't. No, they don't. They do not. The insurance companies will not allow it.
It's been eye-opening. My 15-year-old son is quite a YouTube aficionado, and one of the channels he watches is VFX artists react, and I guess some of these VFX artists have stunt people that they're dear friends with, and so they'll react to stunt scenes with stunt performers, and just watching the people like yourself, Linsay, like the people that you work with, and these other stunt performers, watching them talk about their craft, it just makes my respect go way through the roof. And grateful that these VFX artists who have this YouTube channel, like, would bring in somebody who literally played Black Panther when the late Chadwick Boseman was not doing the stunts. Like, he was literally doing all of the rough and tumble stuff in Civil War and in the Black Panther movie and so on and so forth. Yeah. These are performances that are going in some ways unsung.
Well, I mean, and stunts are not part of the Academy Awards yet. And it's, voiceover, not either. I know Andy Serkis has made a push that motion capture should be considered for, you know, the Academy Awards, you know, because some of the performances that have come out of, but, and as we see, you know, so much work and training goes into being able to appear even just the normal person. It's like, you know, when you get those auditions that are like, well, not an announcer, not an actor, real person. And it's like, do you know how much training it takes to sound like a real person? Because if we get a real person and put them behind this microphone, I don't think it's going to sound the way that you think
No.
it's going to sound.
It's gonna sound like a
Real person.
red hot mess is what
I
it's gonna
can
sound like.
it's like I can attest I am a real
Yeah.
person. I have the
Right?
birth certificate to prove it.
Yeah.
So as you said before, you teach, you're a vocal coach. You also do private lessons and very good pricing, by the way. I checked out
Thank you.
I checked out your
I will say he's an
website.
amazing coach as someone who's been with him for many, many years now.
I appreciate
And
that.
and I could see you also coach people through auditions. Those are a little bit shorter classes, but I was actually curious if there was any like highlights that you had while being a teacher. Like what were some of the auditions or like little pieces of script that came through your door that you thought was just really fun to work with a student on?
Oh gosh, I feel lucky that I'm repped at a big agency, so I'm already seeing all the copy that I'm right for, at least that my
Yeah.
agent thinks I'm right for, and that's a pretty wide swath, thankfully, knock wood. Um, but it's always fun to see somebody bring in a set of sides that either it's a different role from a show that I was semi familiar with or whatnot. Animation is usually the most fun. But I
Yeah.
gotta say, I get a real kick out of drilling down and honing in on the acting
Mhm.
in drama-driven stuff, because so much of the animation out there is comedy, whether it's adult comedy or kids comedy. Serialized television, episodic television animation tends to be comedy.
Yeah.
So when those few dramatic things come through, like the Dota cartoon that's on right now on Netflix, or again referencing Netflix, there's the Castlevania.
Oh,
side
Castlevania.
Oh yeah.
came
Oh, the
through.
Witcher animated film. And yeah.
Like
Yeah,
just
there's a
being able
ton
to
of
drill
anime
down
out
and
there
create
that's
those moments with an
Yeah.
actor and go, okay, yeah, I hear what you're doing. It's fine, but I don't buy it yet.
Yeah.
I don't buy it. Make it more real. Make it more real.
Mhm.
And or how do you think your character would say this if this was reflective of the level of betrayal that they've felt?
Mhm.
Right? I want you to really lean into the reality of it. I think half of my job is to help people put themselves in the scene when they're sitting in a booth in front of a microphone rather than actually on a set or on stage or something. Like half
Yeah.
my job is teaching people how to immerse in the mind,
Right.
because you don't have the other things to lean on, and that's always a blast.
Yeah.
A blast.
Well, is there anything else, any nuggets of wisdom you want to share before we wrap up with you, or any interesting
Um,
stories or tidbits or anything?
Gosh, be cool, stay in school, and have a great summer, and don't do drugs. There you go.
Love it.
No, 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
No,
I'm just
no.
saying. Yeah, here's the thing. I love doing what I do, and I love working with people who love doing this. It's what has carried me through in terms of being a teacher and a coach for as long as I have, because I started back like in 2008. No, 2010, excuse me. But it's been 11 years that I've been teaching and coaching, and I've been in the industry for like 17 years.
Mhm.
So almost equal time. Well, a large swath of that time anyway.
Yeah.
And I just love doing what I do. In fact, I'm kind of one dimensional. People ask, well, what do you do for fun? Voiceover. Yeah, I do podcasts for people, and do horror drama and all that kind of stuff in my own time. And I'm real fun at parties, so I know how to talk about one thing.
Yeah.
But I will say this: like, if word to the wise, there's a difference between being a fan of something and being good at something. And sometimes your fandom can lead you into the perfect spot where you're going to be really good at something. And sometimes your fandom doesn't quite lead there. And that's okay.
Yeah.
And I would say that if anybody is considering being a voice actor, it is, as Rob Paulson would say, it's the best job on the planet. And there's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
How much acting training have you had, and what do you know about the market right now, and all of the things that come with literally applying for any job you might want to get, because it is a job. I think that would be my closing thought.
I love that. And because, we've all had to have those conversations with people, like all of us in the industry, especially with COVID. I had on-camera friends reaching out, and it's like, well, I mean, everyone wants to do animation, that's the creme de la creme. And I'm like, but so my question to them always is like, well, do you want to actually be a voice actor, or are you just wanting to, not going to say play at this, but like, if you think animation is the only thing you're going to do, I'm like, no. I mean, we need to start drilling down commercials and narration and promo and dubbing and audiobooks. I'm like, it's to be a working voice actor. I think people don't realize just how much that encompasses. And it's like, obviously if someone like you're lucky enough to have gotten to play those iconic, animated roles and video game roles that everyone dies for. It's like, but there's still the nitty gritty of what you have to do 100%. To survive in this industry. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well, Mick, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people find you if they want to, either check out some of your work, or if they're interested in coaching? Where can people find you on the internet?
Go find me at mickwingert.com if you're interested in coaching and what I might offer. You can also always look me up on the socials. I'm just at Mick Wingert on both Twitter and on Instagram. I'm still pursuing that blue check mark, but if you find at Mick Wingert, it's me. So,
no one seems to know how this blue check mark works.
So arbitrary.
It's a mystery. It's a mystery.
It's a mystery. But one day I'll be able to sit at the cool kids table.
You know what? We all know that you're verified. So
I almost used one of the little like emojis.
Oh yeah.
Caitlin Robrock has that on hers. She has like parentheses, insert blue check mark here or something on her handle.
Very
and
smart.
I thought, I don't want to get in trouble, so I'm not gonna put the green check mark, but
they're just gonna
flag you.
At most, I think they'd probably just think it was a little
cheeky.
A little cheeky. Yes, that's the word.
Well, the one thing I did want to share with the audience is if your audience does like podcasting and is into audio drama or radio theater like I am, I have an ongoing radio series that I'm sure I'm going to have you on pretty soon, Linsay, called The Hidden Frequencies. And that
that's right. Yes.
Ongoing sci-fi horror. We did a bunch of episodes in 2018, and we've been going through and doing a re-listen with people on our new Discord channel. So we've been redropping every other week the original episodes leading up to a lost episode that we're about to drop, and then that'll lead into brand new content. So
yay. Well, there you go. Please check out your favorite podcast subscriber, and please check that show out. I know you've got some amazing other actors that are part of that as well. So
it's been fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Mick. It's always a pleasure. I'm so glad we were able to have you on the show. And Genevieve, speaking of podcasts and everything else, where can people find our stuff?
Yeah.
Well, you can find us right here on YouTube. Do the thing, like, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications every time that we update. We update every Friday at noon Pacific Standard Time. Thank you so much, Mick, for coming on to the show. You were absolutely fantastic. It was lovely to have you. And yes, so follow us, follow Mick. You can find us both on YouTube and on podcast. We're here all the time for you. So have a wonderful Friday.
Yeah, we'll see you all next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye guys.